have to say that this is a real pleasure for me to be here to see where this idea is going to. I think this whole food plant-based diet idea in the form of the pods is a thing of the future. It clearly is going to be a thing of the future. I've been in science for all of my career, now in my 63rd year actually. But it's one thing to learn the information and sort of get convinced about it, but it's something different to actually get out in the public. And I think the pods right here is the best kind of program I know in the country. Maybe I'm biased, I don't know. That really does have a lot of promise. What I'm going to share with you, though, is a few remarks here just to kind of touch up a couple of ideas that really have to do with this whole food plant-based diet. I'm going to talk for 2 months, 2 years, but I'm kind of just fishing out a couple of ideas to share with you. Number one is the subject of nutrition. It's a science, it really is. It's a science of nutrition. But quite frankly, and that's at the root, at least as far as I'm concerned, that's at the scientific basis for arriving at the conclusion of the value of the whole food plant-based diet, trying to understand that nutrition of science. Unfortunately, in medical schools, it's not taught. Got to correct that. We've got to get that turned around. And of course, as far as this whole food plant-based diet, I need not to tell you what we're about here, but a couple of ideas here come out of this. I think we can summarize the whole thing, the whole shebang in just a few words. Whole food plant-based nutrition creates more health than all the pills and procedures combined by far. I know that's a provocative statement, but it needed to be. It really is. I really believe it. Secondly, that good news at the top there. At the bottom here it says, no information on health is so profoundly important, but so misunderstood. That's whole food plant-based diet. I think many of you know this is quite a challenge. This is a new idea. There's a kind of a challenge for us to be talking to families and friends, of course to talk to institutions and medical authorities as well. We've got to get this across. I'm going to mention a couple of ideas here about a couple of things to keep in mind about that sort of the science of nutrition. First off, this idea here, this came out of a summary of some research that I was scanning at the time when we wrote the China study, 2005. But there's a statement here you might find provocative. Maybe not these you folks here, but it really is. There's evidence for this. The whole food plant-based diet, in one form or another, prevents, suspends, and cures all these diseases. That's quite a collection. I mean, there's some serious ones there, obviously, some very serious ones. At the same time, there's and the sort of uses category. But the main point about showing you this effect is broad, unlike the way we actually tend to practice that is the way we think about how to create health. So it's a very broad effect. It's rapid. Jody mentioned something about the sort of immersion program that Nelson has done and some others have done now. We can see results in 10 days. Many of you know this. In 10 days' time, we do some formal studies, and that's what we end up seeing. So it's rapid. If the dietary change is sustained, that's always the question. One thing to see some results in 10 days, but then if you stay with it, what really does happen? I want to share with you some information that gets us over that hump. But mainly, and this is the future, I think this idea is really significant. The whole food plant-based diet doesn't just only prevent. We've talked about preventive medicine for a long time, as you know. Sometimes it falls into cracks because the things are going well. But the idea that the whole food plant-based diet actually treats illness and disease, the ones I listed here, and happens so fast. That is a selling point. If we want to really share this idea with people, with our friends and family, and especially with physicians who are working with patients as well, just put them on this diet for 10 days, 15 days. Do some before and after labs and just look at the results. It's very quite remarkable. One of the things that really is central to this idea, how it gets confused, is the question concerning protein. I mentioned this earlier today, and I'm sure that you are aware of this as well. If there's one thing about nutrition, one thing about food, in terms of health, that we tend to think about pro and con, is the question concerning protein. Where do I get my protein from? It's really key. And so for those of you who have transitioned to this kind of diet, you know the question. People ask where to get my protein from. I want to show you just a real quick snapshot here of some data that I'm interpreting in a different way than my colleagues do. Was significant. Namely, if we plot animal protein intake against, for example, different diseases like breast cancer, if we do this, and this is a colleague of mine, Ken Carroll, the late Ken Carroll. But if we plot that, a bunch of different countries, see how it might be related, animal protein versus breast cancer. See that straight line there? It's really impressive. It's hard to deny, okay? Here it is for uterine cancer, same thing. The fact that these lines, you want to write down through the origin, for those of you familiar with graphs and science and stuff like that, the fact that that linear regression goes through the origin, what that says in theory, as soon as you put a little bit of animal protein in there, your risk is going to begin to increase. So there's three. Here's another one, kidney cancer. You suggest that maybe low protein is useful, which it is, but this is all animal protein. Animal protein is related to all of these. I'll go through them. Here's heart disease. This was published back in 1959. Now, there's going to be some scientists in here, I'm sure it's going to be critical, what I just said. Many of you know this. These are correlations. And you've heard this story before. Correlation does not mean causation. That's a challenge that everybody says. I disagree. Because that criticism of correlation is not being equivalent to causation in a sense, or at least not suggesting serious causation. That kind of sort of pullback is due to the assumption that nutrition is related to a single nutrient, essentially. In other words, correlations like this are usually used to find a single agent that causes the disease. That's not nutrition. Nutrition is a combination of all the nutrients put together. And then you get closer to this sort of idea of getting closer to causation, quite frankly, and especially we're seeing so many of that. So that's all protein. Now I wanted to share one other idea. The protein thing is significant. Because as you know, as I already said, we have thought for decades, if you're going to have nutrition, you got to have some animal protein. Usually people just said protein and that meant animal food. Actually, we get all the protein we need from plant foods. We don't need to have animal foods to have protein. In fact, we get the ideal levels of protein from basically plants. Now I'm going to show you this here. I don't want to get too deep into the science here. Some of you may know this. There's something that comes out of this that's very significant. Here's what we call a series of reactions that go on the cell that have to do with, quite frankly, the metabolism of glucose to give us energy, create stuff like that. How many of you have heard of the Krebs cycle? Anybody? Oh, good, great. Anyhow, that's what it is. I taught that 50 years ago, 60, 50, something like that, with biochemistry students. And I'm really excited about it, learning about these reactions and different enzymes. You get caught up when you're in this kind of thing. So there you have it. That's like that. A few years later, it's like this. And that's just a piece of the pie. That's a little snapshot of what it is now. All the reactions are going on inside the cell, far, far more than that simple slide I showed at the end. It's enormous. It's infinite. That's what's going on inside of the cells. And so the idea that our science has had, and medicine has had over the years, if we could just find the one reaction in that mix, and far more than this, if we could find the one reaction that maybe is responsible for the disease, that we might be able to use to stop it, we create a chemical. We call it a drug. This is the foundation of the drug industry. Go in and find the reaction that really causes the problem, then come in and find a chemical, if you will, to block it. That's the foundation of the drug industry, just pure and simple. So my question is, how can one reaction, that is this infinite variety of reactions, how can we create a chemical to go in and take that one reaction and cure us? We can see some results on occasion, yes we can, but that's not a lifestyle. So the entire idea of resting on just the use of drugs to create health, that's not good. So I'm just challenging at a very fundamental level. Our whole idea of using drugs to sort of get to health is not exactly what we ought to be doing. I mean, in contrast, that's the protocol. In contrast, nutrition, that's the beauty of nutrition. If you eat food with all the infinite numbers of nutrients, I'm talking about tens of hundreds, maybe hundreds of thousands, millions of different kinds of reactions. If you eat food and let nature take care of the affair, what nature does, what your body does, is you're going to sort all this out. It tends to sort it out, and instead of going to one reaction with side effects and all that, all the stuff is happening at the same time. That's nature. That's nature. This is what we've missed in science. This is what we've missed in medicine. We took the wrong road. We assumed that we could describe complex disease formation through the variety, maybe one reaction here, make a chemical. It makes you a lot of money too. That's sort of the bottom line. Whereas if we use food, it's better than the drugs, longer lasting. They show it's a lifetime thing. It's a lifetime thing. The crushing concern in consuming animal protein is the opposite. That's what I'm showing. The opposite of whole food plant-based diet, obviously. So here's a quick snapshot of what really got me into this game. I'm a sort of biochemist, but training and got excited about all those reactions and telling students about that sort of thing. But what really struck me some few years ago was the fact that with this infinite complexity, not just the complexity that's going on inside of our cells, but here's a really key thing. It's basically all that stuff gets integrated one with another. It's all working together. And we can think you can accept the idea as infinitely complex. With time, over time, whatever we learn at one point in time is going to change in the next nanosecond. Right? And so that's what nutrition is. It's far more powerful than what we have assumed in years past. And I'm writing about this, I have a new book coming out trying to describe this affair, because if we really understand what nutrition is, game is over. There's the whole idea, the whole food plant diet, it's only one kind of diet that creates health. Forget all the rest. It's a whole food plant-based diet. We get that in our heads and understand that. We understand the basic science, we're home free. That's it. So nutrition becomes an extremely powerful thing, not only to prevent disease, but actually treat disease if we happen to be having. Here's what a cell looks like. You know that. The basic unit of biology, very complex. That's like the universe. You know, we got between 10 and 100 trillion cells in our body, and we can't see them. Each cell can sit on the head of a pin. We can't see them. So we got between 10 and 100 trillion universes in our body, each doing their own thing, all working together, talking to each other. It's amazing. And that's, as I say, I think it's a fact of nature. That's where we are. And when you get to all of a sudden realize, all these cells in our body are working in these miraculous ways. Why? And then organs working together. There's more than a cell. Organs are talking to each other. That's our body. Everything is working together from cells to brains, if you will. I often wondered, how come individuals can't have that same sort of camaraderie talking to each other? It goes beyond. It goes to the question concerning the environment. That also is related to the food we eat. That's the main point. Here's how I describe this nutrition model. It's called wholeness nutrition. Wholeness. That's how everything working together, the whole. Multiple nutrients, mechanisms, reversals, health improvements, whole food fitness, that. Anyhow, it's a highly interactive, integrated system without making protein a cult. I know that's harsh. That's harsh language. That really is, because we've been into the protein cult since the early 1800s. So we don't need to blame ourselves. It's just the way the human life works. This contrasts with the medical model. The medical model is reduction. We're looking at one thing at a time. One pill for this. We're going to treat this disease, not that disease. If we're going to do research in the area, we're going to find this mechanism responsible for that. Look at this. One disease, one cause, one mechanism, one drug treatment. Usually foreign chemical of that. We get side effects. That's the name of the game. This is why holistic nutrition is not taught in reductionist medical schools. There's the answer why. From the scientific perspective, there's the answer why medical schools do not teach nutrition. Because medical practice is a reductionist practice. It's a reductionist practice. Why live in something that's so easy to do and so cheap, which is a holistic practice? So philosophically, scientifically, we're talking about things far apart. And I'm going to argue that in the case of science, in the case of medicine, in the case of the whole world, essentially, we've got to start thinking how collectively we can do things together. It starts out with ourselves. We realize what nature did for us. I'm going to finish here really quickly. Here's a list of leading causes of death, just to show you one of the consequences of this sort of kind of thinking. That's not, 2015 is higher than that now, but in any case, there's a ranking: heart disease, cancer, stroke and diabetes, so forth. You know, this is a CDC list of leading causes of death. If we assume that 2/3 of those diseases, and this is a minimal number, 2/3 of those diseases could be prevented and even treated. 2/3. It's actually close to 80%, by the way, in my view. I'm going to be conservative. 2/3 of all these diseases could be saved. Okay? I got a new ranking. Cholesterol at that point is down from 500-some-thousand down to 200-some-thousand. Cancer is there. They were the one or two that we talked about, the highest, the number one cause of disease, second cause of disease. The number one cause of disease is nutrition ignorance. Nutrition is not taught in the medical profession. In fact, in my own profession, in medical research, nutrition research more specifically, the fact that we don't get it, and we haven't gotten it for decades, we've got to change. There's a major change that has to be in our thinking, both as a public, whether for professionals or what have you. So I'm going to finish up here. If we don't understand nutrition, here's some of the outcomes. You can see them all there. I mean, there are consequences. That's part of the whole, if you will, involving the whole of the planet in many ways. Big one, environmental degradation. I have to say, I subscribe to that idea big time. If we can worry about, think about our health right now, but think about what we're doing to the environment. Because what we're learning about science, about health, about the practice of medicine, it's much, much bigger than that. If we don't solve the environmental problem, there's Nelson that works for Harvard, and with this whole idea now coming into the BBC idea, you've got to do something about this. So our environment is gone. You got to solve the problem. I was just getting ready for this yesterday, standing on the deck behind our house, and I looked down across the lawn and had a picture that I'd taken. Remember, I took a picture down there some years ago. I'm sorry, it has to show the bright lights and it's not showing up very well. But in any case, what I want to show here, this is what was in the back of our house. Cornell's down at the end. Those trees there are colored. Sorry you can't see them. But they were brightly colored on October the 10th, 2015. I just looked at it with you yesterday. It struck me. Those trees haven't changed this time of year. They haven't changed yet. That picture was just taken yesterday. How can the climate, just in this little microcosm, you know, what's it, 3 or 4 years ago when you saw those colored tree leaves and stuff like that? What is happening? This is happening all over the place. Our trees are not changing. We've lost half of all the insects in the world. Bees, a lot of bees are being compromised. We've got to think environment, environment, environment. It's for ourselves, it's for everyone else, it's for, in fact, our entire world. So here's some echoes from 2,500 years ago. We are what we, Hippocrates said that. Aristotle, I think he's generally regarded as one saying the whole is greater than some of its parts. That's the way I like to think about things. The whole works together. It's not start dividing things up. Hippocrates said let food be thy medicine and let medicine be thy food. 2,500 years ago. We don't have another 2,500 years to relearn this lesson. It's pathetic. It's really pathetic. We have to change. And I'm going to argue that one way to do that is understand nutrition and get the professional trained in the area and the rest of us in the public very simple. Just eat plants. End of story. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that presentation. And remember, leave comments below. Click here to subscribe. And until we see you again, be strong, be well, and be green with Amy and Dr. T. Colin Campbell. Bye-bye.